Welcome to the Intelligence Amplifiers, podcast that celebrates the people who make the intelligence a collective superpower. In every episode, we uncover the stories of learning and development leaders who amplify knowledge, break down silos, and empower teams to thrive. These are the enablers of insight, the ones turning expertise into action and shaping the future of work by ensuring that the right knowledge reaches the right people at the right time. So, if you're ready to explore how the intelligence is amplified and shared across organizations, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Intelligence Amplifiers. Today, we have Rebecca Scales joining us. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Marco. Thanks for having me.
Of course, great to have you here. And I know we met a while back while you were at Expedia, and we've done a lot of interesting work at Technocon. So it's been fun getting to know you and all the work that you've done. But I wanted to start from sort of like your earlier beginnings. And you're a high school teacher, right?
I was a high school teacher for 12 years. I taught the social studies and competitive speech and debate.
Got it. And so, I'm curious, what got you excited about being a high school teacher? I guess
Oh,
teaching in general.
yeah. So I don't know. I think it was just something very deep down inside of me that I was just kind of a teacher from the very beginning. I don't know of a time that I didn't love to help people learn. From being a little kid all the way into high school where I tutored students who were having trouble. It was just pretty natural for me to go into it. I know my aunt was a teacher. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I certainly I love the learning process, and I particularly love high school students. And honestly, I miss them a lot. So I try to do as much as I can on the outside of work to be with teenagers. But yeah, so it was just I don't know what it was. It was just from a very young age. It was just something that I love to do. So,
Got it. So teaching process.
mhm.
Yeah, I totally get
Learning
it. And
science, learning
yeah,
science is just fascinating to me. So, yeah.
yeah. And I have two high schoolers right now, so
Ooh,
I
bless
also.
you.
Yeah, and it's really fun to see how they go from that sort of like, school is just kind of like a babysitting until that point. But in high school, there's something about like locking in and really kind
Oh,
of
yes.
focusing. So it's a next level in learning. So
Yeah.
thank
High
you
school is
for.
different than elementary and middle. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so then you went from high school to an LMS company, I believe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me.
So there was a startup company
Uh-huh.
that needed an educator. And I had pretty much burned out after 12 years. I don't do anything half-heartedly. I go all in. And so when I was a debate coach and teacher, I worked so hard and I was so tired and I just burned out. And so I got this opportunity. There was a company that needed an educator to work on this LMS. And they hired me on the spot as soon as I did my interview. So I was really lucky, and I got in there and I was doing some curriculum development for them, and then I was looking at the product and I was saying, I'm not sure that this product will really fit the market and this and that. And so I kind of slowly started giving my opinions and just in a super nice way. And they started inviting me into like engineering conversations and design conversations. And then they learned very quickly that I was really interested in the technology and I also had something to share. And so I helped build that product based upon my experience. So I had been a teacher, I'd also been an administrator, and so I came from a bunch of different perspectives there, and that was kind of my first foray into the corporate world. And so yeah, so was with that company for 5 years. Did just about every kind of role there. I started out building curriculum, and then I moved into implementation, and I did pre-sales and got into product eventually and did a bunch of consulting. And in 5 years, I did a lot, covered a lot of ground, and also covered a lot of miles. I was traveling about 90% back then. But boy, I'll tell you, the mileage and the points really added up. So I got some nice vacations out of all of that.
Yeah, wasn't it Hawaii that you did a lot of
I
implementation?
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just did a lot of traveling all over the United States, but I did a statewide implementation of the LMS in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And then I was at the same time doing an implementation at a school in Alaska, and I was doing those implementations in January and February, and that the differences in weather between Hawaii and Alaska are pretty dramatic at that time of year. So yeah, fun
Got it.
times.
Got it. Got it. So you didn't want to stick around the continental United States, right? You kind of went.
Right. I mean, it was yeah. So and those were two states that I didn't think were ever going to like be on my list of having visited. And so now I can say that I have visited all 50 states. So that's kind of fun.
That's super cool, and I just want to. I find this like fascinating. So they got you. The startup got you in to basically advise them on the content that they were like
Uh-huh.
teaching on, and you were very opinionated on the product, right? Like
Hmm.
being on the other side as somebody who would like normally use it, which is the
Right.
best kind of feedback to get. And then you slowly got involved in the design of the product and like the product management and eventually even
Hmm.
the sale of the product or pre-sale and how all
Hmm.
that happens and how it's implemented. It's a full circle in terms of like delivering the value to the customer, I guess.
Yeah, I got really lucky, right? I mean, because they needed those different roles, and because it was a startup, I got to do all of those things. And modern day, when a company is pretty well established, you get a role, and that's pretty much what you stick with. And I got the opportunity to be able to go around the organization and play around and have a lot of fun. Actually, there were some very late nights that I would spend sometimes with our lead visionary where he and I would whiteboard through the night. So we had these big rooms where there were lots of whiteboards, and we would just whiteboard. And I'll tell you, some of the things that we were dreaming about doing back then, a lot
Mhm.
of what we were dreaming about doing back then was impossible without the compute power that we now have. And so back then, we were talking about using machine learning and AI. To be able to give us some good insights into students and be able to give them recommendations for really good stuff. And this is before we saw the recommendation engines coming out. This is stuff that we were dreaming about way back then. And so to be able to see some of this technology now and what it's capable of doing is just kind of blows my mind. So I've been touching this stuff for quite a while.
Yeah, it's one thing to have a vision. It's another thing to have an API you can just kind of download and plug it into your product and
Exactly.
make it all
Exactly.
happen.
Yeah, we were just saying, "Wow, this is really impossible right now," and the engineers would look at us and go, "This is impossible now." And now, in today's time, it would be like, "Oh yeah, let's do it," or "Oh, there are like 5 or 10 different products out there that already do that." So,
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool, and it's cool. Like, and that's the nature of startups, I guess. So
mhm,
yes, there are some late nights, but on the flip side, you sort of get to pick your own role and choose your own
mhm.
adventure. And it sounds like you took full advantage of that and got to see how the sausage is made and kind of,
Yeah,
you know,
it was so
the,
fun back then. And I'll tell
yeah.
you, I mean, it was a lot of stress too, don't get me wrong. I mean, startups can be very, very stressful, and, most of the time they are, but, I sure did learn a lot. And so then moving on in my career, bringing all of that experience with me has been very, very valuable, especially now in my current role.
Got it. And so you from the startup you moved on to Expedia, right? So you
Yes.
went from to a bigger, more established company, more mature. And I
Mhm.
know you've done some really awesome work there. A lot of sort of like continuing innovating with learning and development. What brought you to Expedia? What did you see as an opportunity back then?
Well, it was interesting because there was a guy that at the startup that moved to Expedia, and he just said, he goes, "You picked up on the technology so quickly and all of this. I just really love to work with you again, and I'm going to keep my eyes open for a position for you." And 3 years later, he kept his word, and he said, "Hey, there's a position. I've told them about you. They want to interview you." And I got in the door. But this role was something completely different. It was completely out of education for the first time in my life, which was a little unnerving, I will tell
Uh-huh.
you. I went in as kind of a TPM in the data warehouse. I had learned so much about databases and how everything connects together and all of that but I was also I was pretty good at program management as well, and also being able to communicate with engineers. And so the role was kind of perfect for me for a time. And so I was doing the some big migrations and all of that, and working with teams, and we had a release schedule and all of this. And it became very clear, though, in working with those engineers that Something that traditional L&D teams don't do is really focus on the engineers with the learning. And I thought that was interesting. And I just kind of took note of that. And then while I was in the data warehouse, I took a Python class and I took a SQL class just so that I could better understand what was going on because I really wanted to be able to communicate with the engineers better. And so I took those classes. There was an engineer who helped me along and tutored me through the Python class. And as I was taking it and talking to people, I suddenly realized, wow, there's other people who'd really like to learn how to code. But I was also seeing that tension, sometimes healthy and sometimes not so healthy, between product and engineering. And so I thought, wow, if the product managers actually knew what it took to write code, this may be a this may be like a relationship builder, like experiment, right? So if product managers can better understand what engineers are doing, and engineers could better understand what product managers are doing, they may communicate better together. And so having all the psychology in my background from education, it just kind of made sense to me. And so this one day, I looked at the guy who helped me through my Python class. I said, "Hey, do you want to teach a class?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "A Python class for people who don't know how to code." I said, "You explain it really well to me, and I think you'd be a really good teacher." And he's like, "Well, sure." And so I just set up a conference room and we found 10 volunteers who wanted to try it. And it was highly successful. And that was October of 2015. And then by January, it had gotten so people had talked about it so much that we ran 22 classes in January. We had 22 different classes being offered by engineers to non engineers. And then suddenly it was around the world. And within 3.5 years, we educated over 8,000 people. So it was really a fantastic experiment. It turned into engineers teaching other engineers. It turned into product managers teaching engineers. It was fascinating. And we didn't say no to anything. We just let it go because this was a side gig. This was not my full time job. And then finally, there was a VP who came to me and said, "Hey, we've just hired a bunch of engineers out of boot camp and they don't know Java. We'd like to partner with what had become the Expedia Code Academy." He said, "We'd like to partner with you. Do you have a Java instructor who might be interested?" And I said, "Well, yes, I do." And so then we put on this extended learning opportunity for all these boot campers who came through because they were mainly front end engineers when they came to us, but they needed to know Java because we were a Java house. And we put them through it. But in the process of all of this, I'm thinking to myself, I want to do this for a living. Like, I want to do this full time. And so I went right back to that same VP who came to me and I said, "Hey," I said, "do you think there's appetite for me taking a technical training role?" And he said, "Yeah, I do." And 6 weeks later, I had the job. So that's how I got into learning programs. So although I had been a teacher and then I moved into that LMS, the LMS, I really wasn't a teacher there, right? But I got to go back into education when I got to Expedia. So it was really fun. And what a ride. Wow. We did some really great stuff. And then that eventually turned into the Instructor Academy because I was attending some of the classes and realized, wow, these instructors are really struggling. And so I have some techniques I can teach them. So built out the Instructor Academy, and we had a certification program, and we put about 400 people through that program, and we had a whole slew of instructors at that point. So it was really fun. It was really quite a ride.
Wow. There's so much in that in there to unpack. So, like, I'm just trying to kind of like remember. So you joined doing a totally different TPM data warehousing job,
Hmm.
right? And so this is
Hmm.
your full-time job. And meanwhile, you're noticing like, hey, engineers are neglected by L&D, right? Like,
Hmm.
there's nothing really for them, and you decide to kind of bootstrap this thing with a single Python course with a single instructor. And
Hmm.
you take this philosophy of let a thousand flowers bloom, let engineers teach engineers, right? And
That's
just
right.
kind of create this ecosystem. And that scales to 8,500 plus
Hmm.
engineers eventually went through that, hundreds of classes,
Yep.
and really kind of scale this thing.
and meanwhile, so you still have your primary job. You're doing this on the side, right?
Yep.
And like literally 1,000 flowers bloom, and then a VP comes along and says, "Hey, like this is something that I have a business need, a strategic need
Hmm.
for," and that's where the Java education comes
Hmm.
in, right? And then you create a job for yourself out of that, right? So it's
Correct.
not there was no job for engineering education, like
No,
that. You
it was a brand
created this
new. There was
thing.
no job description. Yeah.
Right, and but you gave it a container, like you
Hmm.
created. I think it was called Engineer Academy, right? Expedia Engineering Academy
Yeah,
or
it
something.
was just a Code Academy. Yep. Uh-huh.
Code Academy. That's right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you created this thing. You actually gave it a name, so it became a thing, right? Not just
Hmm.
like some random, kitchen sink of activities, but it became a
Right.
thing that, and then out of that, you created yourself a job, and it became a strategic impact to a VP. Like, so you had a
Hmm.
VP sponsor this because there was a specific need, and you created a job
Exactly.
for yourself, and then you scaled it so much that you needed to scale also the Instructor Academy, right?
Mhm.
So it
Yep.
wasn't because the model was engineers teaching engineers,
Mhm.
and you needed sort of like to level up the quality of those teachers as well. Uh,
Exactly. They were
yeah,
struggling. It was taking them too long to put their content together because they just didn't really know how to, right? And so I taught them things like Bloom's taxonomy and um, a lot of other educational psychology, which really
yeah,
matters because techniques in teaching don't come naturally to most
yeah,
people. So
yeah.
you have to learn. There's a reason that teachers go through so much school to become teachers, right? And so that's why I wanted to do something like that. Is I wanted to support them, and so I have many, many, many students now that have gone through the program who have gone on to teach in different online settings. They are currently teaching. They teach differently, like when they're managers, especially being able to mentor and teach their own employees has been something that they've reached out to me years later and said, "Thank you so much for offering that." So it was really valuable. And then I have one for managers too, because managers should know how to teach. I mean, that's one of our jobs, right? When we are held responsible for a team of people. So it's been a lot of fun. And I've been able to take it to each company that I've been in, and it's been really successful.
Yeah, and there's also the rippling effects of that, right? So it's not just
Hmm.
what you created at Expedia, but like all these people that left Expedia and then kind of took
Hmm.
that model, not just you, but like random engineers and managers that
Right.
benefited from that. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it's wonderful. And that's how you and I kind of connected as well, because I did something very, very similar to Twitter, not knowing what you did at the
Hmm.
time at Expedia. And we've also seen some other companies also independently do
That's right.
similar approaches. And I think it's this big sort of awareness that engineers are not served by L&D. They love to share their knowledge if
Yes.
provided with the right platform. And by platform, I mean they need a little bit of education how to teach, a little bit of
Hmm.
a permission to stand up a workshop or whatever is the
That's
easiest,
right.
and a little bit of a support, and then you literally kind of unlock this whole like
Absolutely. And
learning
it
culture.
scales. You can have a very small team and scale those types of programs that way,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so the tricky part is people having time to teach, right?
yeah.
And so that becomes something that we have to talk to managers about and leaders about and so forth if we see a need. We did that last year with one of our employees who just ended up speaking at Rails World in Amsterdam, talking about the program that she put on, educating over 900 engineers last year. And that was another engineer. So yeah, it's really fun to see this happen.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story. It's a lot of courage in that one, a lot of sort of just going out there and kind of plowing your way through and making it happen.
Well,
Uh,
all they can say is no when you ask for a job, right? I mean, so that was my opinion. I said, well, I already have a job. Might as well ask for the one that I really want. All
yeah,
they can say
yeah,
is no, and they said yes, and I was surprised.
yeah.
I'm still blown away by that. So
I remember that saying, like, how do you climb a mountain? Well, you don't climb it, you build it underneath you.
that's right.
And it kind of reminds me of that. You literally, there
Yeah,
was nothing and you just kind of built it. So
absolutely.
impressive. And so you had this like huge success at Expedia over
Mhm.
over the years. And then you left for Noom, I believe. we
Mhm.
discovered knowledge management and relationship to
Yes.
learning. I'm super curious about that.
Oh, this was probably the most learning that I've done until about the last year here at Procore. But at Noom, there was a bunch of reorgs happening, and there were some rifts and things. And I was basically alone on my team. And then suddenly I inherited the knowledge management team. There were three individuals who made it through one of the rifts, but they had no place to go. And the first place they thought of was with me. And I did not know anything about knowledge management, nothing about the discipline. And so before they joined me, I had about 3 months before they officially joined me where I got to meet with them. And I said, you need to just download to me, like just download your brains. Just tell me, what is it that you do? What is the discipline and so forth? And I said, and are there any books I can read? And so they gave me a couple of recommendations. So I got those 2 books and I studied and studied and studied. I listened to what they had to say. And then finally they were able to join my team. And it became very apparent to me that there is a very strong relationship between knowledge management and learning. And the reason is because if you're going to create learning programs that apply to what people do in their real work, there is a knowledge base that needs to be there in order to be able to pull good information to be able to train people on. But more than that, it goes way deep into educational psychology. Because if you think about Bloom's taxonomy of thinking, right? So how we learn things on the Bloom's pyramid, the bottom level of Bloom's is knowledge. And so I started thinking about this and the whole discipline behind having an excellent knowledge base, having it organized, easy to find, all of that, getting data off of it constantly to make sure that you're constantly updating that data. When you think about all of that and you think about an engineering team and all of the documents that exist, whether they be in GitHub or Confluence or whatever the system is, you need an organizational mechanism there so that you can easily pull the relevant information, knowledge from those knowledge bases to be able to make applicable training programs, right? And teach people how to use the internal systems to solve their problems. And so if you have all of your information all scattered out and you can't find it, then more than likely the programs that you build are not going to be on that solid foundation. And the bottom level of Bloom's taxonomy is the biggest. You have to have a good knowledge base. So being able to pull that discipline of knowledge management into learning has absolutely been revolutionary for me. I have seen such a difference because now the programs are completely applicable to what the engineers, product managers, product designers actually need. And so, yeah, so I learned that at Noom. And I'm so grateful for that. And then my job kind of changed a little bit and I got into like more engineering operations and things like that. But we still had a really great knowledge management program with all of that. And so even just good knowledge, now you add in AI tools on top of the good knowledge base. Now you've got some power. We didn't have that when I was at Noom, but now you have some serious power. But I will tell you that if your knowledge base is in a mess, AI could really do some bad stuff for you, right? I mean, if the knowledge is not there, if it's not in good shape, that AI can hallucinate more and more and more and get you really bad information. So now more than ever, it's incredibly important to have a really great knowledge management strategy. So, and that's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll get to this as well, but especially with AI, we're seeing the kind of like the standard stack of enterprise roles, if you will, is
Mhm,
kind of being shattered. Like we used to have the learning team, the knowledge management team, the learning system, the knowledge management
mhm.
system,
Yep.
and we're seeing this sort of like be dismantled and recombined
Yes.
in a different way, and it's still unclear exactly what the way is, but like everyone is sort of like questioning, like, why are these things separate, like, or
Yeah.
should they be?
And I don't think they should be. I think
Yeah.
learning teams and knowledge management teams should be blended along with the tools.
Yeah.
And with AI, just making sure that your knowledge base is in really great shape, but then being able to have some kind of robust system where you can use that knowledge very easily to create really good training opportunities for people. That's a powerful combo. And I mean, it's founded in just tons and tons of research, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we've never put them together in corporate because in corporate, we don't think about Bloom's taxonomy because it's not education. But
Yeah.
here it is. Here I'm just an old teacher, right? Coming in with information about how people learn. And then I learned something about knowledge management. I'm like, wow, we need to partner these two things up. And then it
Yeah.
was very soon after that we put that all together that a couple of people, at least, well, there was one person on my team at Noom who went off to speak at a big KM conference. And people were blown away by thinking about learning and knowledge management together. So she did a really nice presentation on the combination of that learning and knowledge management. Boy, that audience just ate it up because it was something they'd never heard about before.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's super interesting that I remember even when I was running training or engineering enablement at Twitter, there was a documentation team was separate, and like I kind
Yes,
of absorbed that because it just kind of made sense. Like we're educating, and just like one is through the
that's right.
documentation, the other one is through learning.
That's right.
But there was the debate. Different companies, they still kind of had somewhere sort of like engineering documentation, engineering education is two separate
Mhm.
things, should they be or not? So it's really interesting that you kind of got to inherit that
Yeah.
and make sense of it. So cool. And so after Noom, you went to Procore, where you're at
Mhm.
now, right? And
Yes.
I really find remember when you and I spoke, you said your job is really, it's not about what's going on today, but it's about 2027 or like
Uh-huh. Yep.
some year in the future.
Yep.
So tell us more. Like what
Yeah.
are you up to?
So when I was planning for this year, 2025, the direction that I got from our top leadership was get our people ready for 2027. And I was like, ooh, okay. And that's it. And by the way, I love directives like that. It's not super specific. It just says there's the target, go. Right. I love that because then I can get really creative. And so what I did was and this is before I got that directive, I had set up some AI courses, right? Because it was kind of new and so forth. And something that I was noticing, I would sit in on these classes, right? And I had an outside contractor teaching it because we didn't really have the discipline within the company at that point. So I hired a contractor, and I was in those classes, and the instructor would say things like, "Okay, so now that we know some of the machine learning algorithms, can you all see?" And again, this is mid last year, so it's pretty early. Um, can you see how you might be able to use these in your everyday work and everyday life? And of course, with questions like that, I would assume that people would basically say, maybe, or yes, I can see that. But I was actually hearing no, which was interesting. And so it was a data point. And I thought, I wonder what that is. I wonder what's causing people to either not see it or not want to see the connection or whatever. I don't know what that is, but there's something there. And I saw this repeatedly last year. And so when I got this directive for this year to be get our people ready for 2027, I thought, all right, I'm going to look and see if there are any studies that are out there that talk about the human interaction with AI and the AI
Mhm.
tools. And but I said I wanted, and I had some rules around this evidence though, or this studies. I said I want this to at least be a year after the launch of GPT 3.5, right? The big launch. Because I want to give people a chance to use the tools and this and that and then see where it goes. So there was a study, I found one study that was published back in November of 2024. So that's just last November. And it came out of South Korea.
Mhm.
And what I was thinking to myself was when I heard the resistance that people had, I was thinking, is this growth mindset? But it doesn't really feel like growth mindset. It doesn't feel like, it feels like more than that. And I couldn't put it, like, I couldn't figure it out. So when I found this study, I read through it and it was really well done. And it was like a 430 some people or 418 people, something like that. And it came down to self-efficacy. Okay, so growth mindset is you believe that you can learn something, right? But self-efficacy is the belief that you can actually do that thing. Very different. It's kind of an extension of growth mindset, right? Self-efficacy is what they found. They found that when people resist using AI tools, in some way, they don't believe that they can. They don't understand AI, whether it's developing AI tools, whether it's using tools, whatever. And if you remember back last year, our tools weren't great yet, right? We have some fantastic tools now, but at that time last year, there were a few, but not very good. And so I took that study and I thought, all right, I have a bias now because I saw what I saw in classes and then I read a study and it fits what I've been thinking. And so I thought, all right, I still need to do something internally. I need to know how Procore employees are feeling about these things. And so when I got back from the holidays, I immediately looked at my team and I said, we have to do a study internally. And so we put together a small group of people and we did an internal study. We had 3 different ways that people could interact with us. We had a survey, we had focus groups, and we had one-on-one interviews. And I took all the one-on-one interviews. And so we finally put this all together and we had a study and it was 28 pages. It was really long, along with recommendations. And then we built as the data was coming in, I was thinking about the program and we launched the AI Academy. We built the AI Academy on that research and then published the paper and then started our classes in April. So that's how we did it.
Got it. So basically, from studies, so the big, I guess, insight was the growth mindset versus self-efficacy, and self-efficacy is basically a step beyond just learning. And this is, I always like used to think like learning in itself, it's kind of like, it's selfish almost, like it's a potential, but it's not,
Right.
unless you use it for something,
Yes.
it's not very useful, right? Like it's just a
Right.
potential unreleased.
Hmm.
And and I guess you notice that self-efficacy is that belief in like I can
Yes.
actually accomplish this. Um,
Exactly.
got it. And and you did what you do well, launch an academy. This is what your third one, coding instructor, and
Is it
now
my third or
AI.
my fourth? Something like that. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And I remember you telling me, it was again, we were talking about thousands of sessions, tens of
Uh-huh.
thousands of people have gone through that. Like there's a certain level of scale as well. It's
Yeah,
not too
so
small.
yeah, so I wanted to have 2 different tracks. I wanted to have an
Uh-huh.
engineering track and I wanted to have a non-engineering track because I do have a lot of people who are not engineers inside of this PNT organization. And so I want to make sure that everybody's needs are met. So we built 2 tracks. I ended up teaching the non-technical track, most of the basic courses, all but one. And we started in April and we ran a bunch of different sessions. But in the end, what we have is, and now we've just, today was our last day of our engineering basics. So we have just now finished the first rendition of the AI Academy in terms of the courses. So pretty exciting. Today is kind of a big day, and so we're accumulating all of our data and so forth. But as of the end of Q2, we had over 6,000 sessions attended. Now, what that means, let me break that down. Classes have multiple sessions, and then people can, they will attend those different sessions of courses. And so in the end, we had 6,000 sessions attended, which is exciting, right? That's a lot of people. There's 1,200 unique unique individuals that went through programs,
Mhm.
and over 800 of those unique individuals attended courses. So the data is giving us some really great data. Now, this organization, as of Q2, we were sitting at about 1,800 people. So having 1,200 people attend is a pretty good number. I was a little bit disappointed in it. I wanted a little bit higher, but I was like, all right, it's okay. But what we did was we didn't just offer courses, right? I think there's something really special about this other piece of the academy. In our study, we knew that people were going to hesitate to to attend courses. And so, and I've really thought about why people don't attend courses. I mean, there's always a time constraint and everything else. But I knew that we needed something else besides courses. And so I thought, you know what? Let's just do a podcast. So I have an internal podcast. I have my mic, I have my cameras, I've got lights, I've got everything else, I've got backdrops, I've got all this stuff. And we started doing these. And what we do in these podcasts is we invite employees in who are using the AI tools that we get to use at Procore and show people how they use the tools. Okay, so this does a few things. First of all, the act of pressing the button for enrolling in a course is actually deeply psychological in my mind. This is how I view it. I think
Mhm.
it's deeply psychological because at the moment that you press enroll, you are admitting that you don't know something. Okay. And I think that that is harder for some people than others. And so that means that I need to have opportunities for people to just show up, no enrollment button, if they're interested in something. And so that's what we've done. That was the whole idea behind the podcast, was just to give people an opportunity to see what's going on with AI in the company and give them an opportunity to not have to enroll. And that's where we've gotten a huge amount of people engaged. So we've done some sessions that have been highly technical. We've done some sessions that have been not so technical and using some our Gemini tools or whatever it is. And we just have such a plethora of great tools here to use, which I'm grateful for. It means that we need to have a lot of different podcasts to show people what they can do. And so for engineers, for example, using Cursor, that's been a big one. Being able to really understand how these tools work. So anyway, so between those two programs, we're still running. We have another one this week. We're talking about security since it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month in October 1st. We have a podcast on security and AI. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I love how you went from what was at Expedia, mostly workshops and like
Mhm,
live sessions. Now you're sort of experimenting with these other modalities, and one of them
mhm.
is podcast. I also remember you mentioned doing videos where subject matter experts would
Yes.
just record a Loom style sort of like quick video, and then
Uh-huh.
they would actually show themselves. It's sort of like what gamers do.
What
My
gamers do. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Yeah. So, there's this thing, and I've never really caught on to it, but a lot of people
Yeah.
have, watching YouTubers, and they're playing games, and they and people just watch people playing games. I'm like, well, why don't we just have people watch people using the tools? I mean, if they're into that, I'm not, but some people are. And so that's what we started. We started building a library. And so now what I tell the engineers and the product managers and so forth, what I tell them is I say, just start up a Loom and just talk through what you're doing,
Yeah.
just as if like you're live or whatever, you're live streaming, and just tell people what you're doing. And it's become really kind of a thing. It's just started, but people are really kind of getting into it. We're just organizing it by topics and everything inside a Lim and folders and everything. And it's starting to kick in. I don't know. I mean, give me a couple months and I'll be able to give you some data off of it. But, we just started that. So that's another modality. And then there's one more that I want to share with you too. And it's kind of a weird one, I guess.
Uh-huh.
There's been people call me a mad scientist for these ideas that I come up with. But um, one of the things that I did was back at the end of June, I think, there was another one of those studies where they talk about the intelligence of different models. And, that word really, I key in on that word because I'm an educator, right? And so when
Mhm.
you start thinking about the term intelligence, you think about, talk about learning and training and all of that, that keys in on the educator brain of mine. And so I took that study and I thought to myself, you know what? I want to know how these models stack up to Bloom's taxonomy because I know Bloom's really well, but I'm like, if I could know what levels of Bloom's these models are good at and bad at, I could teach what they're bad at to help our employees, right? Because we need to be able to do the things that AI is not so good at, right? Because AI will take that work from us. But like the stuff that it's not good at, we should probably get really good at it. So being a teacher, I know, well, first of all, I took the study, I put it into Gemini, and then I put a bunch of stuff about Bloom's taxonomy in there, and I had it do this.
Mhm.
It used Canvas to make an infographic. And what it showed was that the top levels of Bloom's AI is not good at synthesis and evaluation. And then it's also not good at comprehension, which is interesting, or understanding. Doesn't really
Mhm.
understand, right? Makes sense with what we know about AI and these LLMs. And so anyway, I thought, all right, well, as a teacher, I know that debate is one of the ways that you can train humans to be really good at the top levels of Bloom's. But I thought, I'm an old debate coach, right? So I have a bias. So I went to Gemini and Perplexity and Grok, and I'm like, okay, to teach humans the top levels of Bloom's, what are the best techniques? And number one was debate. And I thought, all right, I'm going to do it. So I'm about to launch a corporate debate program. All of the topics are going to be on AI. Okay. So now this is my philosophy. I still have a tremendous number in the organization of people who have not engaged with AI Academy. I also know from our study that a lot of people hesitate using AI for lots of different reasons. They just won't use it. And so I decided that maybe the way that I can get everybody to participate is if we have debates on AI. Because if you don't like AI and you don't, if or you have some ethical issue with it, which some people do, then why don't you come and listen to a debate? Right? Because your side is going to be in the debate. That's what makes a debate, right? And
Yeah.
so we'll see if we get more people to join. So we have people who will learn how to debate and actually do the debating, which is a lot of education that happens during that part, learning, logical fallacies and all of that. And then there are the people who come and watch those debates. So we'll see. We're going to launch in October. So we'll see what happens.
I
I'm
love
kind
the
of excited about it.
experimentation. Yeah, I love the aspect of innovation and experimentation that you bring to the table, and pulling the pages out of other playbooks and trying them out in the context of education. So it's going to be
Kind of
super
fun.
cool. Yeah, super cool to see, and you're having fun with that. So, what else are you excited about? What's on the horizon for Rebecca?
Oh, good grief. There's so much. I am really interested to see what happens with this debate program
Mhm.
because this is a blend of higher level thinking, speaking, which a lot of people are nervous about, but it's also it can be very technical, right? I want to see if this program actually improves relationships between product and engineering. I want to see if that works because sometimes we have a tendency or even relationships between people and their managers. I don't know. Like I just want to see better communication, right? Civil discourse in a really safe way. I just want to see what happens with that. But I'm excited about that. But I'll tell you what, I love the tools that we have, these AI tools that we have. I'm excited to see what's going to come in the next like 3 months. I think that there's something big probably that's going to happen. I don't know. I don't have a magic ball or anything, a crystal ball, but I feel like there's going to be so much more for us to learn. And that's what excites me, Marco. Like, I love the learning process, right? And I also wonder how things are going to be different in this next generation coming up
Yeah,
and what education in corporate is going to look like with the people who've been brought up with AI. I don't know. It's going to be
yeah.
really fascinating to watch. So I hope I'm around for a long time to see it and play with it. So
I love how, yeah, you're super excited about that. So looking back at like I look at your career. You started as a high school teacher. You got into an LMS company and kind of
mhm.
reinvented the product and how it works. Then you went to Expedia and kind of pioneered this like engineers learning from engineers and scaled that to like thousands of engineers worldwide, and like something that was really significant. And then kind of like paired learning with knowledge management,
Mhm.
and then built an AI academy, and now you're like reinventing what 2027 is going to look like totally looking into the future. So you've been
Mhm.
sort of like reinventing yourself, and along the ways making doing it at scale, and having this really amazing sort of experience career, I guess, over the decades. looking back, what would be a piece of advice you would give to a younger Rebecca starting out?
Oh, don't be afraid to ask for what you want. When you know something is good. Oh, and here's another piece. A lot of times, leaders will not see the vision and they will not understand. You
Mm,
just got to keep on going. And even though I was shut down, look, I was shut down multiple times in starting a debate program years ago. Now I have a really good reason to have one, right? You've got to just keep don't ever let no be a permanently no. A permanent no, I mean. So like keep at when you know something is good and you know it works and you know that it can work, even if you're told no over and over and over and over again, keep it in your mind because at some point it will come back. And that's exactly what has happened in my life, which is so cool. So it's a just keep pushing, right? And sometimes you just gotta pause. What I like to say is things are not stopped, they're just paused. Paused for a time that you don't necessarily understand the amount of time that it will be, but oh man, at some point it's going to come back. And then just be as creative as you possibly can be. Give yourself time to think. Give yourself get enough data in your head to be able to process through. My brain takes a little bit. I'll take in a bunch of information and then it processes for a while. I don't even touch it. All of a sudden, then the ideas come. That's just the way my brain works. But however your brain works, just you know, go after those things that you know are right and good for people, and eventually you'll get there. So you'll get it.
yeah.
You'll get an opportunity to do it.
I mean, I hear a lot of vision and having conviction in self and leadership. Really explaining what it means to be a leader. That's
Oh,
what
thank
I
you.
hear
Yeah.
in that.
I am definitely I love leadership. I love again all the psychology around that and so forth. And truly, I think I have this philosophy, I guess, or ethical standing. I believe that it is my job to give people every opportunity to learn as they possibly can. And then it's their job to take advantage of it. But I feel like I have to give them every opportunity to do that. And so that's why I try to do things in so many different ways. Because that to me is my ethical obligation. I get paid to put on learning programs. That means I need to hit as many people as possible. And so I need to be able to get them what they need when they need it, but also in the modality that they will best take in that information. So that's what I try to do.
It's how to serve. Yeah. Well, thank you, Rebecca. It was really inspiring hearing your story, and there's so many nuggets there. So really appreciate having you on the episode, and I'm looking forward to hearing more how the Debate Academy pans
Yeah,
out.
we'll see how this goes, right? I don't know. I really don't know on this one. It's my first time doing it. So thank you so much, Marco.
Great to have you. Thanks, Rebecca.
Bye bye.
That's it for this episode of the Intelligence Amplifiers. If you like what you've heard, be sure to subscribe or follow so you don't miss out on the future episodes. And if you're interested in being a guest or have a question, check out the episode description for how to reach us. Also, don't forget to check out Plus Plus, the platform that makes collective intelligence at scale possible. Find out more at plusplus.co. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep amplifying.